folks. So those of you who be watching this, welcome back. We've got
All
another.
right.
Oh, hey man,
There, I
we've got
got
a
you. I got
we got another episode of Left Hand Path means Right Hand Path, and once again, EA of Koetting is joining us. How you been, man?
you. Oh, I broke up. I broke up just there. Say that last part one more time.
I said, how you been?
I've been all right. Pretty basic question. I should have guessed that one. No, I've been really, really well. How about yourself?
Um, well, good news. I'm back in town. I've been traveling a lot, but I've been wow. Well, I was happy that I managed to make um the last ritual. We got back in town just in time for that, and I have been keeping notes of everything. Uh, it's this was the funniest thing that ever happened to me during that entire the 2 weeks I was working on the farm back in Ohio. So I had been having dreams like just completely like insane, like with the most vivid things I'd ever seen. And I woke up and oh man, it was like I don't know if it was somewhere around 2 to 3 to 4 in the morning. So we have the trailer has this one room they call it the tack room. You can put all the tools in there, and I've got a little place I can sleep in there, and it's got a window. So I open my eyes like fully awake, and the window I see like the crescent moon. It's like in its waning phase, and the shape and design I'm looking at that I'm going, that's I'm like that's I immediately was like that's probably the dark the this littlest dark moon. I was the first thing that popped in my head, and that was like almost middle of June when that happened. And I was trying not to like think too much about it, but that's actually something I did learn is as the more things kept happening throughout the more stuff that just kept happening throughout the trip. I was like, okay, I need to focus on what's happening, what I'm doing right now. I don't need to get too wrapped up in different um, different questions. But it was and that was actually I think that was actually a breakthrough moment for me is because I was being taught things from as I was being taught things from like both both Lilith and Azazel was I was learning like it was to not focus too hard on the questions, but just to sit there and focus on what you're actually working on.
Mhm.
And because I always had like these burning things were going in the back of my mind. I'm like, I want to tell somebody. It's like, but I know I'm knowing because he keeps reminding me it's a distraction.
Mhm.
It's a distraction, and it's um, I realize like that's the biggest one of the biggest issues is that and I try to keep my mouth shut for the most like during the during a lot of the lives it was reading what people were saying and realizing like I want to say something but I'm like that's a part of my ego wanting to distract from from what's important.
Mhm. Mhm. That's interesting
Yeah.
because it seems so. There's a fine line. I think we have to walk between uh not letting the ego get out of control crazy, and but at the same time coming from a place of total worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
That because I can feel like there's some unworthiness in that of like the insights you have. I mean, are they just a distraction? Maybe they're fucking profound. Maybe they're gonna change somebody's life if only you speak them. And because it's like a lot of the things. it's funny because all of my videos and books, I've got my favorite parts, and I'm like, this is people are gonna love this part. They're gonna go crazy. Everybody ignores that part. Everybody finds their own little part that just lights them on fire, and it always blows my mind. I'm like, that's what did it for you. But it's like, yeah, there is, because but at the same time, I get that where Azazel at one point, because I'm like, well, what about this? What about this? What about? And he goes, look, you're not even looking for answers. You're just addicted to asking questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, for sure. He's like, I've given you enough. Can't you just chew on that for a while? And and it's like, and then another thing he told me, he goes, we'll give you things. Sometimes we even make it. We give you the. He goes, we'll give you things, and then we'll even do the extra gift of letting you understand what we gave you. And then there's an extra gift if there's an ability you have to communicate that to anybody at all. And so there are multiple gifts there. Just accept the fucking gift, man. Quit
Oh
quit
yeah.
quit worrying so much about like what is this gift. Accept it and then see how it integrates with you.
It's funny because once I kind of got over the um this kind of threshold of is this my imagination or is this accurate, and I was like, okay, that balance of, and I tried to keep this. I tried to word this properly because I had, what was it? It was on around the 21st, I think, where I had a very vivid dream, and it was a woman with red hair, and she came up there to talk to me, and we were like sitting in the woods, and it was very bright, and she was talking to me, and I was like, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you, and she said, yeah, you do. I'm like, no, ma'am, I don't think I do. And she's like, oh, okay, hold on, let me change my appearance. So she basically runs her hands through her hair, and it goes from like fiery red to just jet black, and her eyes go from golden yellow to purple. And I'm like, oh, now I recognize you. I was like, well, I said, what can I do for you? She goes like, well, I want to protect you. I was like, I've never thought I'd hear you say that. Like, I'm not dismissing it. It was surprising. It surprised me. Like, because my first thought was like, from what specifically? She gave me no answer. And now, as people who were studying the same thing about like, the time shifts and the downloads and everything, and they know more about this than I do. And I asked them, I try to be like, sounds a little strange, but I got a question. And I kept getting, every time I had like probably multiple people try to give me some insights. A friend of mine, she's really good at reading cards, and she just was like, she was getting everything from like, she was like, full moon, new moon, full moon. I'm like, wow. And it was just, and another friend, she's been doing this for a long time. She just started, but it's weird. When she gets drunk, her accuracy goes up for some reason.
No, that can happen for sure as just a you're letting go of your inhibitions. You don't have that voice telling you to stop talking because you're being an idiot so much, and so you can just let things fly out. Yeah, but then it does have. I mean, because yeah, I've definitely found that pathway. The bitch of it is like you find something like that and you're like, oh, okay, cool, and then I became like a raging alcoholic over it, and then everything diminished. And so it's with those kinds of tools, you got to be careful.
Sorry, I just shoved a boiled egg in my face. My bad.
You're good. You're good. But yeah, no, there's it's interesting because when an entity or an intelligence comes through and says, we're preparing you, or we're protecting you, or what was the other one? This is a distraction. The question that keeps coming up for all of those is from what or for what? You're preparing me for what? You're protecting me from what? Um, and a lot of times it's interesting because this stuff. Here's the really crazy thing with protection. If you've got solid protection, you'll never even know that you were protected. Like you'll never even know what it was that missed you. But you're missing bullets left and right. You'll never even see them.
See, that was the kind of the, I because this is something I found, and I know there's always this little click in the back of my mind. Is like, because I know I've said this before. Um, I don't actively seek out, I guess, quote unquote, demons or devils to interact with them. But for the most part, I've always approached everything with like a kind of civility and courtesy, like, oh, like, hello, and like, how are you? And, just politeness,
Yeah.
Unless it's like something that's actively trying to cause problems, then I sit there and make demands out of it and say, like, you need to leave. But that's the thing, because even they've shown there's two techniques that they taught me, and now and it was cool because on the other live stream when the guy when the I forget who it was, but he was saying like how Azazel was training for something. In the back of my mind, I heard that. I was like, he's been doing the same thing for me. He's been pushing me so hard to literally like.
Oh, buddy. I'm getting a message in the Yahoo or in the I'm sorry, the Yahoo wow YouTube chat from Kyle saying they can't hear you.
Oh, odd.
Yeah, no, and like I can hear you, but I'm seeing that you're, when you talk, like it goes green around your you see a green border. When you clicked a button, it did it. It did it. So I'm not sure if you have to click to push.
Hold on.
Oh no.
My live stream is picking up. I don't know. Let me check. Ah, okay. Let me check. Let me check. Let me check. But let's see. Oh goodness, I have to go through this like almost all the time. Let me see. Where's the audio? Appearance, video, audio, video, voice and video. Why they change stuff? Voice activity, push to talk, default, default, default. Let's check. 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 Now I can hear myself. Odd. I'm not on mute. Let me see. Try that works. Strange. Let's see. I don't know. Yeah, keep telling me if it's I don't know. Strange. That's weird. Oh wait, what if I do this? And how about now? Now, as people kept, people who were studying the same thing about like, the time shifts and the download. Can you hear me? All right. How about now? Sounds to be coming through. Microphone's not too high. Let's turn up just a little bit. -12. Let me see.
Do I have you back?
I think so. What about you?
That was weird. Yeah, no, yeah, I've got you, and yeah, my whole system is just like for some unknown reason went into hibernation out of nowhere.
Right.
So, but we're back on. Where were we? Do people hear you now?
Yeah. So, dude said, thank you for telling me that because I'm trying to figure out how to set everything up to where I can actually read the chat, but not like people don't just see like a chat screen. But
Yeah.
no, so all the work with I'm kind of like working with a jousting team right now. If you look up the guys Full Metal Jousting, I started working with them, and it's just like constant nonstop this place to this place, and it's the money's really good, but it's like the break is there's no day off. It's you're done when you're done with the day's work, and I like it. I love it, and I've sat out there and it's man, I have no joke. One of the places we went to, a little rural town. I said like I'm gonna have like I was so tired. I was like I want like 6 eggs for breakfast, scrambled. Next day I was like I'll take 10. Day after that I'm gonna take 14 scrambled eggs a day, and I was having that for like 2 weeks.
Wow.
And it was just like I was sore everywhere. I used muscles that I didn't even know I was using, and I woke up literally one day I was like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna work tomorrow. And then I woke up, and then it was like everything was just flushed, restored. I was like, you know that the whole gag about like Dragon Ball Z with the sensu beans? It was like that.
Mm.
And I was just like, and I was just downing nothing, but it was just all physical work, and it was just the whole time. Whenever I kind of turned my senses on, I'm like, yeah, you're there, I can see it, but he's not talking, he's just watching. He's like, and I sit out there, and and he goes, get back to work, okay, and that's it, just get back to work.
Mm.
He's like, don't get distracted, stay focused, get back to work.
Mm.
And
Interesting.
it's like there's just like this kind of weird, I don't know how to explain, but you kind of have like that stern look where you're just sitting there like and it's just like that stern look of, are you working? Yes, I'm working.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. It's interesting. When I did my first 90-day path working with Azazel,
Uh-huh.
I'd uh, I'd evoke him every day. And usually, before bed at nighttime, I'd evoke him and then just take notes about whatever he wanted to teach me. But that's not really where most of the teachings came to me. It was actually at that time. Um, right after I started working with him, I lost my job, the career I had built up in cabinetry and decorative finish, and so that whole industry just got flushed away. And I came to his office, I'm like, hey, what the hell? Like, I made a pact with you, and he goes, yeah. He goes, in your pact, you asked for the unrestricted flow of prosperity. Your job was a restriction, and so I had to take that restriction out. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Sure enough, that led to everything laying out exactly like it was supposed to. But anyway, so I was doing a job as as many of my haters know, I was doing a job doing carpet cleaning, window
Mm-hmm.
cleaning, home restoration, etc. And that's actually where I think the downloads actually got like unscrambled or unpacked while I was working. I'd just be cleaning carpet, washing windows, up on a ladder, and then I just start having realizations just coming to me about how to build demonic legions and how to perfect evocation and stuff. And so there is something about like even just don't distract yourself from work, like get yourself in this world, walk the path, do
Mm-hmm.
your life, and that's actually how things are going to start unraveling. Are you familiar with a dude named Somnus Dreadwood?
It sounds familiar, but I can't place a face.
Yeah, he has a group, or had, I'm not sure if it's still functional, called the Temple, the Majurian Cabal, and it's kind of it's pretty secretive left hand path group. But I did some interviews with him several years ago, and as well as a lot of personal calls. And on one of our personal calls, I was complaining to him. I'm like, I'm just not sure what to do. I keep asking these beings what to do, and they keep telling me, just keep doing what you're doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "That's what the fuck? I want more. Yeah, give me something else." And but what Somnus gave me, he says, "Well, the revelation is in the doing." I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, while you're sitting here trying to figure out what it means, you're not actually going to know what it means. You actually have to go do it, put it into practice, go live your life, and it's all going to start coming together." And for sure, while you're sitting there in the temple trying to make sense of the message, you're never going to. You got to go start moving and working, and that's when and that's when it really hits you, when it comes all the way full circle, and you're like, "Oh shit, I see it now." Until
Mm-hmm.
you have that moment, it's all just conjecture. But once you have that moment, it's there's no more argument.
And that's it's funny because that's actually the the conclusion that I had come to was like, and it kept coming to me, just do the work, just do the work, don't worry about that, just do the work. And I knew it was like I was like, I know better, and I it's like and I would and I'm happy because I'm actually doing better. And it's, I think to some degree there is a slight mixture for me, and this is something that I think Lilith has taught me is there is a degree of feeling of unworthiness, but there's also a degree of um, it's like there's potential that you're too afraid of. And I've actually I've thought about this before. It's like there is a potential I'm afraid of, but there is a, and that is linked to a feeling of unworthiness, but also I think, I don't know if it's like a seeking of approval necessarily, I got that same message is like it's the revelation is in doing the work, and if you focus too much on the um oh yeah, I kept getting these dreams and messages from Lilith, and it's like you're focusing on the wrong thing. It's like, it's, hey, good job, but keep working. And it's the same thing with Azazel. Like what he's taught me has always been is like do the work, and it's been like every day the specific meditation I've been doing is like it's like I can I'll just say it like I can literally almost constantly feel the power going through me, and it's very impressive. But it's there's a strange thing, because what's kind of been revealed to me is whatever is going to happen. It's kind of like it's like I need people for this, and he's like I need you for this. Okay, don't focus on too much on it. Just do the work because I need you for this. It's important. It's not. I don't necessarily think it's a big role, but it's a role. It's like it's important, and and I'm kind of happy because like when it's not just like a whole total darkness thing. It's like there isn't like I need. From what's been revealed to me is like I need you for the balance part. It's like I need a person for light to be part of this. So I need you. Oh. I need you. It's like okay.
No, that's interesting because there are a lot of really powerful light workers that are I don't want to say coming into the left-hand path, because left-hand path is, it just really, it's hard to say like I only walk the left-hand path. I do everything. I do what's necessary for what I need to get done, and a lot of light workers are moving that way into working with a lot of these entities and such. Which I was in my last round of really diving deep into vampirism. So I don't stick with vampirism for very long. I'll dive into it when I've got a specific working I want to do, when I have just something that I need to use it for, and I'll kind of build up. I'll do the vampirism thing for maybe a few months, and then I'll tap out and go to something else. It's just not what pulls me, I think. But in my last round of it, I was told to take one of my katanas, it's my favorite katana, to take it and to dedicate it and consecrate it as a vampire blade, a vampiric tool that can basically just absorb life force from innumerable amounts of people at once. And it is a pretty powerful tool. But part of that was to paint. I had to paint the scabbard red, blood red, and it could never see the light of day. So once it was consecrated, I've got to keep it in the scabbard unless it's nighttime. And the way that I got this, I'm just chilling here in my temple. I'll hang out in here. I'll play guitar in here and just come and chill with friends in here. This is kind of my favorite space to be. So I'm just chilling in here one day, and I see out of the corner of my eye, I see what a full-on old woman in a red gown with her hair done like all Victorian style. Like if she let it down, it would have been at least waist length hair, but it was all up in this really tight, like beautiful bun, beautiful white hair, and it was very clear she's a vampire, and in some way, I don't know. I don't think she exists in a body anymore. I think she's translated from a body, and that I'm seeing her in her form. But she was basically just coming to me to give me some lessons and teach me some things, and. So at first I see it out of the corner of my eye, and then I look straight on and I see, well, I've just got a table there with a red tablecloth, and my eyes were playing a trick on me. Mm-hmm. But then I look away, and out of the corner of my eyes I see her again. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'll just keep looking away from her and start talking to her. Sure enough, like if I do this with this particular vampiress, I can 100% have full on open-eyed vision of her and have a conversation with her. But she tells me how to take this katana and how to use it, specifically how to draw it from the scabbard in a fluid motion and to keep my mind calm. And there was a specific way she wanted me to do it. She's like, you're not preparing for battle, because I was whipping it out like I was about to attack. And she's like, that's not what you're doing here. You need to relearn how to do this. You're using a magical tool. Here's the magical way of doing it. So I finally get it right, and I draw it from the scabbard perfectly. And I got so excited that I did it right. And she's all, what she said, don't over reward yourself. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you got so excited. Now what are you gonna do? Now that you got it out, you're all excited. Now what? I'm like, oh fuck, I don't know now. I'm actually lost because I got so excited. And then the same thing, I was in here playing my bass guitar, and I hit a transition that was difficult for me, and I was like, yes, I nailed it. And she pops into my vision and says the same thing. Don't over reward yourself, because then what do? You start messing up the rest of the song. Like you've got to have those moments of the high excitement and the things coming in, but still, like you're being told, still just do your job. And then another thing I wanted to add to that, this is so I'll have people come out to my boot camp, and most of them it's a cool experience. We chat, whatever, and I get pass them all the information that I can. We do all kinds of rituals. It's an awesome experience every time, but every now and again I find myself compelled to pull people aside. And I did this with J.S. Garrett, with J.D. Temple, with a few others that I pulled aside and said, look, there's something special about you. Something big is coming. I'm not sure what. It feels a lot like a battle or a war, but not like we've ever known before. But it's got the same spirit as that. A revolution, really. And I'm like, I don't know why or how, but I need you. I need you to fight this alongside me. And those people are always like J.S. Garrett, for instance, he's like, all right, cool. No, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. Go live life. Like, I have no idea. I don't know what it is that's coming. I don't know that there's anything that we need to do consciously, except for be aware, I think, of the gravity of that calling that we have. Even though we can't identify exactly what that calling is or what our destiny is, just being aware of it. But then you got to do this balancing thing like you're talking about, of like, be aware of the greatness that lies within your calling, but at the same time, just do your job, just go about life, try not to think about it too much. So really, it's a head trip, but it is like that is what they demand. Understand you are the chosen one, and then just go live life.
See, that's the kind of thing, is like, I don't necessarily think like I have a profound ego, but I do kind of get like, oh, that's me. Sorry, I was trying to clean my screen a little bit and I was making a sound. It was strange because now Tina, we had like a strong heart-to-heart. She's the girl who has to drink when she reads, and we had a strong like heart-to-heart the other night. It was like July 4th, and she told me things like she wouldn't even tell her boyfriend. And it's not, he's a cool guy. He's just very down to earth and very practical. I don't think he's an atheist per se. I think he's more agnostic, and I think she straight up says like she's more of an agnostic, she was actually interested in going to the Left-Hand Path Consortium, but she was a little afraid because of what happened last time. So he's like, I don't know if I want to go. It's like, well, I might be going, doing security work there, so we'll see. But when she finally gave me the reading and everything, and it was funny because it was just like, she's like, think of your question. I'm like, okay. And she's doing all this stuff, and I'm laughing because she's like, This is a very the answer was strange. I said, I know what the answer is, because it was like hey, here, my question is A or B, and you just go yes. I was like, well, that's not how you answer the question. It's like, no, the answer was, the question I had to ask was, what exactly do you want? What exactly is going on? And it's just, you'll find out. All right, fine. And it was just you gotta wait and see. You'll find out. Like, oh, all right, let's. And I just when I got that, it was kind of like, okay, so I'm not just making this up in my mind. This is not just me You know, or I hate when people try to like decipher dreams and be like, oh, you know, if you're flying, that subconsciously means this and that. Like, how did you come to that conclusion? But you know, it's like, okay, so it's not just, you know, a strange dream that I had, or one that I had multiple times, because it was cool. She what was it? Literally earlier in the week, I woke up to the same location, and this is very rare that I ever go to the same dream twice. And I'm just laying there, and she just kind of leans down and kisses my forehead. And it was like when she kissed, it was like burning, like hot fire. And she's like, "I'm gonna teach you to see spirits, okay?" Mwah. And then just left. I'm like, okay, but it was, you know, and it's just like the answer is you gotta wait. You just gotta do the work, but you'll wait and see. So it's, and you know, the anxiety of like, this has always been because I'm a bit of a perfectionist and a workaholic. So it's like, am I doing the work right? It's like, no, you're doing the work. Just keep doing it. Okay. And it's like the questions that just keep coming up there, and I'm like, just do the work. I know. And,
You know what? One workaround that works really well for this is that I think if everybody would do with their magical or spiritual growth, it would be a really awesome thing. Uh, Check in on your success only every 90 days. You know, when you do any kind of working and you're looking at it, well, is it here yet? Did I receive anything? Did anything happen? Well, you know, it's coming. It's coming. Give it 90 days. So you do, and that's with any working. That doesn't mean it's going to take 90 days to do it for it to come about. But if you're especially with any kind of self-developmental type of stuff, like a 90-day turnaround is like the perfect time to make incremental changes in your life. And so, you know, you do a ritual, you call someone to awaken your vision, for example. Like if you're looking at it every day going, well, is it happening yet? Is it happening yet? You're not going to notice it. You know, it's only when you stop looking at it and then down the line you check it out and you're like, oh wow, like it's like when, you know, your kid's growing up. My daughter's 18 now, and she was just like 3 years old the other day, I swear. You
that
know?
sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. It's actually really cool. Parenting gets better and better and better as it goes on. It gets more expensive, that's for sure. But they get cooler. They get cooler. At first, I'll tell you what. At first, kids say the dumbest shit that you're just like, you're not interesting to talk to at all. I really don't like playing, you know, dolls with you. But as they get older, they get really cool.
Oh, it's like just that I remember my niece, like she'd be having like these conversations, and I'm looking at her and they're going like, you have changed subjects like 8 times, but okay.
Right?
Okay.
Exactly. No,
But
awesome.
yeah, I am kind of, you know, I am kind of happy just for that the understanding. And I've always kind of, I noticed, realized like this is actually a revelation I instant just had right now, is that I think I do have like this slight concern about, I don't have a problem doing the work of being a leader, you know, if that makes sense. But what I despise is the it's sometimes it's like no matter what you do, you know, all the expectations are just get on your nerves, and you're just like, I don't know how I can do all of this and still manage. It's like insane, because you gotta, like, it's such a razor's edge you have to walk. And I just have I've come to the conclusion I have very little patience for just those kind of things, you know. And I think it's like gradually more and more I keep seeing these dark aspects of myself, and it's not like it's not a denial. It's I see it now. Yeah. I mean, I'm always aware of it, but then it's like I see it more clearly of what my own problems are. It's like, you know, as you said, like that it's the possible feelings of unworthiness, the doubts, the why is this difficult, and like, okay, I see it now. And it's more like and somebody did tell me, like, you know, the whole point of Lilith is she's supposed to be like that, the darker reflection of yourself that you understand. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see that.
Well, so just before we got on, I was on a consultation with a fella, and he was telling me, he's like, when I call Azazel, like I don't know, I feel like I'm letting him down. I'm not doing the rituals right. I'm not, maybe I'm not, pronouncing his N correctly, or I've done something wrong, and so I tuned into Azazel, and I was just asked him, Azazel, what's up with this? And the answer Azazel gave me that I told him was, Azazel says he's a dirty mirror, and specifically on purpose, he's showing you the dirty aspects of yourself. He's revealing to you how you feel about yourself. It's not how Azazel feels about you. He doesn't have those same emotions. He doesn't operate the same way we do. But he's showing you that you feel unworthy, that you feel like you're always messing up. You feel like you're going to be abandoned at any moment because you were probably abandoned as a child. He's bringing all of this stuff up so you can see it and you can feel it. That is honestly, that is the real danger of black magic. Is it does, and anything demonic and dark, it does bring up the things that we would rather not look at.
Hmm. I think that's kind of like that's more and more the things I've discovered, and I noticed that it it does get kind of difficult to talk to people because it's like on that one hand, the most of the people that I have social interactions with are, I guess you would say, I don't like the term light worker, but I'll just go ahead and claim them as that because it's the
Sure.
easiest way. And they don't per se shun the dark, but they don't really have much interaction with it.
Mhm.
And for me, it's I don't like the idea of someone going being on one side of the fence and pointing your finger on the other guy at the other side of the fence and say, "Oh, that guy is X, Y, and Z." I'm like, well, it's like I'm the guy who's like, "Hey, bro, not to make any accusations, but is this true?" Or because
Mhm.
and it's like, no, it's actually this, and this. Like it was like the first time I had ever had an it was weird. The first time I had ever had an interaction with Lucifer was like, oh, I get it now. You're not prideful. You're just you have a standard, and it's
Mhm.
like there's like some of his I guess domain was just like it's all like um this structure of quality and like, oh, it seems like perfect. It's like yeah, but it's like it can always be better. It's like you keep going further. There's never perfect. There's always you can keep pushing forward. I'm like, oh, I see. So it's not pride. It's just it's a it's a it's a I get it now. And even
You
with
know,
hmm?
with Lucifer, there's a huge and what gets interpreted as pride is an intense lack of shame.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not hiding anything. He's like, like, yeah, you see his palaces, and it's beyond anything that we could ever even dream of constructing. And it's like, wow, how did you do this? And he's like, oh, it's just a simple thing. Like it's just an expression of himself and unhindered, unrestricted. Because that's when that is why we want to hide ourselves, is because there's some shame there that we have of who we are or what's going on with us. And so he just doesn't have that. And so he just lets himself shine fully to everybody, and that does get interpreted as pride.
I mean I can actually I can see I can respect that whole like I can respect the aspect of a person who is because at a certain point it's I have nothing to be ashamed of, so I will not hide. I can respect that, and even like even like understanding Lilith a little bit more is she's not what a lot of people have presented her as, like, and I kind of understand just how you know how it's so strange to put it in words, but it's like how more she has like a kind of a resilience and an understanding, and it's even like the same way with Lucifer. It's like you know, it's like the this people keep associating her with sex and everything. It's like, well, no, it's like there's a sexual energy that you people can learn to, and it's a powerful energy, and I think the Taoists learned how to redirect it and use it to be more powerful and to acquire more energy. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. It's
Yeah.
it's all these kind of, I guess, things that appear taboo, but then but then it's like if you actually look into them for yourself and you come to understand them, you look at them from like a, I guess like a neutral, unbiased perspective, and say, well, what is the point of all this? And it's like, oh, I see it now. I get it. So if you're not,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, okay, and it's pretty cool, and I guess it makes them more and more relatable and more easier to understand. But at the same time, it's I wouldn't even go actively out to people who say like, what is it? Oh, I follow Hecate or Lilith or something. I wouldn't go necessarily talk to that individual, because I think that it seems they focus too hard on the just the pure left aspect, the pure darker aspects, rather than there's a meaning there that there may be overlooking. If that makes any sense.
Well, so in some disciplines of tantra, a person will first they'll spend their youth and and into their adulthood learning how to master yoga, how to master their energetic bodies, their physical body, master their senses and their and their lusts and such like that. And so the first like half of their life, for the specific sect I'm talking about of Kaulashara, that usually for the first half of their life they're in strict like religious discipline, and then after that, if they so choose, that they will start engaging in everything that's sinful, all the attachments and sinful things, drinking and orgies and drug use, and some of them will push this really far as into eating feces and eating the dead and sleeping in cemeteries, and that would be when they go full on agori. But the idea there is that because of the first half of their life of conditioning, they're able to remain completely non-attached. No matter what's going on, they don't get fazed by it. And so then as they're participating in all these things that would otherwise drag a person's soul to hell, I mean, not necessarily in the religious sense, but in the spiritual sense of making them a dark and evil person, instead they're able to actually use all of those things for empowerment. That instead of getting drunk, that they actually get into a state of higher liberation. Instead of getting lost in the sex, that they're using that to raise their kundalini in a different way. And so it is kind of like what you're talking about, of like, that there's, I mean, nothing that we can interact with is static, and nothing has its own value that can't be changed by our interaction. Like, by each individual that we are, as we engage with these things, that things that otherwise might destroy somebody could be the thing that liberates you if you're the right person under the right conditions.
Yeah, and that's, I think on some way I was starting to rationalize that, and it's like, because there was a passage that I saw the other day where God was talking to Cain, and he says, you must master your sin, do not let it master you. And that kind of stuck with me, as like, it's not a deny your sin entirely, it's a master it, become its master, or it will be your master. And let me see if I can send this link.
Yeah, Anton LaVey says something very similar, where, and I think this is straight in the Satanic Bible, where he makes the difference between compulsion and indulgence. And he's like, indulgent in anything you want to indulge in, don't be compelled to indulge in, for instance, drug addiction or alcoholism or sex addiction or whatever. Don't you to remain the master. You can do it if you want to, and if you don't want to, you can leave it. Yeah. And sure, that's what every addict says. I can put this down at any point, but you literally need to not only be able to put it down, but whatever it is, you need to actually be able to put it down and go live life without it, and then return to it whenever you need. I think that's the beauty of, like, in the drug world, that's the beauty of psychedelics is that they were never intended to be used on a regular basis. Like usually, communities would come together and do a mushroom orgy once a month under the light of the full moon. And then then everybody just goes back to work. There we are again, getting back to work. You just get back to work. You get back to life, and then and with each of these things, with any spiritual or magical or even psychedelic experience, it is supposed to change you just a little, and then you need to live your life and kind of let those changes settle in before you take the next blast.
Somebody was made us. He was talking about working out, and he said you don't, when you work out, you don't build muscle. When you work out, you build muscle when you rest and you relax. Because that's when, or sleep is like, that's when the muscles repair themselves. And that was something I've been kind of working on, because I'll admit I'm very vain. Actually was starting to pay off more. And I was like, oh, when I kind of like relaxed into it more rather than obsessed over it. And, I start to wonder, because I've been doing a little bit, I don't know if I could say this, like I don't know what the right term for this, but looking at some of the philosophies that came before Christianity, for example, a lot of the spiritual virtues that are structured throughout the church, before they had them as, there was 4 cardinal virtues, right? And I was studying those, and I was looking at them, and like the approach that the Stoics had was very much of a non-detached, but also there was like this very powerful strength to them. Just, and I was kind of fascinated by it, and I realized like it's not the people who never fall down. I actually was having a conversation about this with some folks for a book I'm writing. It's like, it's not about the folks who never fall down, it's the folks who fall down and get back up. Because it's easy, it can be easy to stand straight if you've done it long enough. And then when you, like, falling down, staying down is the easy way. It's getting up after you've fallen down that can be the hardest thing. Because not only can you, on some levels, your spirit can be broken, right? Because onlookers will not allow you to recover in some ways, which is why I have like a slight issue with people, or the court of public opinion, I should say. It's like you make one mistake, because it was weird. Not to bring up this particular past incident, but some of the things that you had gone through that were brought to like public notice in the past. I remember that there was discussion on the forums, and I was like, oh damn, that's pretty messed up. But like, I didn't think, my personal opinion was, I didn't think anything bad about it, or towards you. I was just like, because for me it's like, well, I live in a spot where it's like, we have guns all the time, so it's like, why are you, the government should not take your guns away. It's a human right to have a gun. And the other things, I was like, I've got like mixed feelings on the whole. On the one hand, I'm kind of like, the government doesn't need to say what you do as far as like drug intake, but also at the same time, there's like drugs that make people go out of their minds and become like zombie killing machines almost. So it's like, I don't know, but I mean, for that, I'm like, I didn't think anything bad about you, but I thought like the situation sucked, and I think when you recovered from it, I was like, well, I'm glad you recovered from it. I'm glad that you were able to pull yourself out. And
like it would be so cool. This is my dream world. That somebody gets tipped off, like in my case, there's a tip off that somebody's got a whole stockpile of drugs, and maybe they could rush some therapists in there to see how life is going. Maybe they could rush some counselors in there to sit down and talk with you and really see, what's going on. Maybe they could have some solution-oriented people that can actually help you work through those things. Because like through the entire time that I was, and I struggled with addiction most of my adult life, and nobody had the balls to tell me, get your shit together, dude. Like you're falling apart. You know, you weigh 120 pounds and you're shaking all the time. Fucking eat something and get some sleep and clean yourself up. Nobody would tell me that, you know. And so that was like, I did have to have at that moment. I did have to have. First off, I had to have Azazel come to me and say, "Hey, you need to get sober." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just imagining this." And then you know, a week later, I get the cops busting down my door. Like I needed that wake up call of going, oh yeah, shit has gotten out of control. Like the people who love me most don't want to tell me the truth and don't want to help me get help. So that's in my dream world. Like I don't see that's the catch-22 is like, uh, was I a safe, productive, healthy person in that point of life? No. Uh, was the solution of imprisonment? That's not going to do anybody any good. So yeah, there is a catch, because I do think as a society, like we because we are a society, we are people that are cooperating together, that we can't just let people suffer. You know, I mean, but at the same time, you kind of have to let people experience their own pain to come to their own solutions. So it's a fine line to walk, man. But yeah, yeah, yeah. And you know what? As I look back on specifically on the all the time that I was high on something or another, it's like I can look back and I can have a lot of compassion. You know, that's like, oh man, I was in such a rough place, and it was only through shadow work, and it was only through the work that I was doing with the demonic gatekeepers that I was able to conquer my addictions and to move on and actually have a life that was enjoyable. That was a really interesting thing, because we were talking earlier about like our destiny and the calling and stuff, and I hit up Azazel with this, and I was like, what? Because I definitely had some people pretending to be my friends telling me, "Hey, you're supposed to be the Antichrist, and as the Antichrist, we're gonna start a cult, and we're gonna lead the world to destruction, and this and that, and the other." And I'm like, "Oh wow, okay." And then other people are hitting me up, being like, "No, you're the savior. You're gonna save us all." I'm like, what the hell? Like, I just feel like I'm just some dude I'm trying to work through my own issues. I'm trying to beat my addiction. I'm trying to raise my daughter with, as a single parent. Like, I'm just trying to get through the freaking day. And so I hit up Azazel and I was like, look, what's the truth here? Am I supposed to destroy the world? Am I supposed to say? He goes, you're not here to save the world. You're not here to destroy the world. You're here to enjoy the world. If you're not doing that, you're not doing your job. And I was like, oh, that changed everything. That was actually a moment of where I was like, wow, I've been working so hard at building my empire, working so hard at presenting myself as a certain thing to the public. Meanwhile, I'm like torturing myself and literally poisoning myself every day because I couldn't handle it. But really the answer was like, I've got to do what I've got to do to enjoy my life. If I'm not, everything else is meaningless.
And there's the weather. We got a joke over here in Alabama where it's like, the weather doesn't exist. It just goes through all seasons during the day. And that's not a joke. It will literally drop from like 30 degrees, shoot up from 90 with 100 humidity, rain, snow. Well, it'll rain and it'll snow like an hour later. We live in our own vortex over here.
That's awesome. That's awesome. No, I started noticing that after I moved in this place. I had several people that would come over and say, "Did you notice like the clouds never stay over your house?" It's like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Yeah, go watch it sometime. Like all the clouds will circle your house, and they don't ever like stop over your house. They move on through and circle around." I'm like, "Wow, that's crazy." Sure enough, vortexes.
You know, so this thought kind of came to me, and discuss. I try not to. I have a bad temper, and I try not to get sucked into like politics. I know I should,
Okay.
because unfortunately, it's like the joke of like that people are NPCs are so real. It's like, do these people really exist? It makes the idea of that we live in a matrix to be less of an opinion and more of like, I think we really might be living in like a very powerful hologram, because there are people who just seem to have like no individual thought whatsoever. And I think partly that makes me kind of like dread this is I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but so my family where they were like they're your typical like your typical hellfire and brimstone Catholics, right? We have a huge family and the works. And what my mother, when she was a kid, growing up in like the 70s, like she was all into like the hippie, like, talking to spirits, and and she told me like all these horrible things that happened to her, and she was like became like just like 5 times worse growing up. But it was like, and that was always like kind of a push through for me. Like, I don't know how to tell people, let alone my own mother, like, hey, I can kind of like see and hear things, and I don't know what to do. I don't know who to talk to about this. And gradually, more and more, I think that there's this right now, and I that we're pushing through a possible like biblical revelation where it's like we're starting to see things as they truly are. And there's a part of my mind that's saying, this is hard for me to say a little bit, but it's hard, that there's the parts of the church that are genuine, that have kept the message of Christ, are going to come out more stronger, while as the deception that has infiltrated the church is going to fall away. It's like the time when Jesus came through there and he was like flipping tables and chasing people out with whips and kicking them out of the church. It was like, that was my favorite part. But the modern day Pharisees are going to fall, and it's going to have the and it's I'm watching it happen, and I don't think it's in my mind, I don't think it's a case of because I don't think it's a case of like what the person believes politically, but what the people know instinctively. Because while you, me, and other folks can disagree about certain things on a political level, but we all see where there is a wrongdoing, and we're like we're all gonna sit there and say that right there, like this guy who's hurting this child, this is wrong, and we're all gonna say something about it. And it's I kind of feel like I got like this really strange sensation as I'm talking about this, like I'm wanting to say it, but I'm kind of scared to say it. But I'm kind of like saying it anyway, where it's just the evil that's existing within the church, or that has penetrated the church, is going to fall away. And I think that's the case. That's what's going to happen. Is it's not a reference to like if a person is right or left hand. It's a person of like we're the people who are realizing this are slowly meeting in the middle, and we're going to push through and come to the other side. That's what my mind is processing at the moment.
Yeah, well, a couple things as you're saying that, I looked up a couple of Bible verses that were just screaming out to me. The first is Acts chapter 2 verse 17, and it is King James version. And it shall come to pass in the last day, saith God, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. And so what this is, I do believe we're in the last days. I think I've known it my entire life, and we do see the youth are the ones that are. It's really interesting because you have this divide. You have the youth and the old people. Middle-aged people like myself, not so much. That we're kind of old news, but it's the very elderly and the very young that start to develop these gifts for us. And then the second one that I've had on my mind a lot lately is Luke 12 verse 3. What you have said in the dark will be heard in the light, and what you have whispered in an inner room shall be shouted from the housetops. And with that, I'm looking at like. Looking at all of just on the micro level, all of the things about me that have been revealed. I can't make a mistake without the whole world finding out about it. And it's like, okay, cool. But then I see that's not just me. Wait a minute. The president's son can't have some cocaine in the White House without somebody finding out about it. It's like, what in the hell? Everybody's sins are being shouted from the rooftops, that we're all discovering the secrets of everything. And it's really pretty disgusting. contrasting what we see around us.
Yeah.
There are some massive changes happening. The idea of the church is interesting. I'd like to actually take the idea when we talk about the church, take that out of the religious context. And I think this is kind of what you were doing. Take it out of the religious context. It's not about the Catholic Church or the Mormon Church. It's the church of humanity. That all of us are spiritual beings that are trying to find our way in this world. And it is prophesied that the church will have a split. That you'll have the church as it exists now, and then you'll have the church of the firstborn. Church of the firstborn are those that actually have a testimony, that actually believe what they're saying, that have, and it's not a matter of faith. It goes beyond faith. People that actually have a knowledge of the spiritual realms, and I think that's the divide that we're seeing right now. Like that. People, even religious people, are getting much more religious, and then and we also see a lot of atheists and agnostic people really searching for their place right now.
Yeah.
There is a massive divide, and I do think it's got a lot of correlations, even in astronomy, with the position that we're at in the universe right now has a different radiance, a different frequency, and we're needing to attune to that frequency.
Oh yeah. It gets. I will say this. I may have mentioned this before, but I do respect the fact that you're willing to look into other sources that may be outside, the path that you are on for guidance and wisdom, because it gets difficult, because like sometimes you can't even hint at a Bible verse without them freaking out, or even sitting like it's funny. My roommate, he has like all these kind of like books on what is it, Julius Evola, and some basic Renaissance magic, and he's like, this is not for anything bad, this is just for research. And I'm just shrugging my shoulders. I'm like, bro, I ain't your parent, you read what you want to read. But it's like, I don't, it's what I have this really strong, like, it's like a weight on me almost. It's like, I don't know if I would ever be able to straight up sit there and tell somebody like, yeah, I've had interactions with Lilith and Azazel, but at the same time, I'm thinking like, they're not, what really blows my mind is I haven't seen Azazel as the way that I think that most people would, and I'm not trying to make this about me, I apologize, but it's just like, he's, from my understanding, he's still a messenger, he's still an angel, He may not be, he might be doing, working with a different goal or whatever, or something, but it baffles. It's just like a baffling thing. It's like the people that you thought you'd never have interactions with, or that you're having interactions with, and you're wondering, where does this put me? I think that's the biggest problem, is like, where does this put me in what I the having to face with, like, what is it that I believe, or what is it that I think I know, and
Well, and a good deal, one of the accusations that I've had flung at me is that I'm not telling the whole truth. It's like, EA is not telling the whole truth. He's just giving us the simple stuff. Where's the real secrets? And it's like, oh man, you guys are so right. You guys are so right, because the whole truth can't be spoken. It can only be experienced. And those things, there's no way of me putting into words my most true beliefs and my most true experiences. There's no words for them. There's no words for it. And so it is like, it is a struggle of, and even with that, like I mean, all of my friends know who I am and what I'm about and whatever, but it's still, even if I'm talking to people who are completely occult minded and stuff, there's like unless there's a point in the conversation, there's really not many places to bring up. Oh yeah, I was talking to Azazel yesterday, and he said this and that. It's like those are. I mean, unless there's a teaching moment that I can extract from that. For the most part, I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut about it, especially around people that aren't in the mindset of it. Because yeah, and there is it's really interesting though how these particular beings, Azazel, Lilith, etc., that they have a really intense manifestation of a monster that most people see, and if you just sit with that for just a minute, that fades away, and then you see something else that's not monstrous at all. It's a really interesting. It's like an illusion that they cast to keep people away.
I, that's that actually stuck with me that you say that because I'm like, okay, because I've been toying with this concept, and if I've mentioned it before, I apologize. The concept of, you know, of what sin and vice actually is, and the conclusion is I don't think it's something there to avoid, but it's like it has a purpose, because my theory that I have a theory that there really are no quote unquote demons per se. That we, you know, the angelic beings that we live around, they're all the same, but it's man. The demon is man is the demon. You know, there's a passage where it says that man's nature is inherently against God, and I'm looking at that and going, because you think about, like, okay, the vampire is a human who turns into a demon. The werewolf is a human who turns into a demon. You know, this is a reflection of us. This is a reflection, like, this is a projection that we put on it. We're not. Lilith is not is not necessarily like a succubus who's thirsting after your your nut. You know, she's. This is what we project upon her.
You know, I was having a conversation with some really super nerdy friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about Star Wars, and I was like, you know, it seems like the Force divides people because the Force itself is neutral. You know, it can be used for the dark or the light side just as easily, but it seems to drive people to extremes because you know, it's the Jedi are not balanced. The Jedi are the most egomaniacal creatures out there.
Yeah.
And my friend goes, well, but here's the thing: is that's not the Force.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when the Force interacts with humans, because that's what humans do. We take something and we force it to the furthest extreme that we can, rather than just, you know, it's a neutral. It's a force of nature. You know, for instance, you know, you see any wild animal that's a predator only kills what it needs to kill. Not us. Not us. We'll kill everything. And so that's in our nature to take things that would otherwise be natural neutral powers and to drive them to either extreme good or extreme evil.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is definitely what's. But brother, I have got to tap out. I've got to jump onto a meeting here. But it's been awesome chatting with
Oh
you.
yeah. Thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
All right, I'll
All
catch you
right,
later. All right, you
well,
have a good afternoon.
you do the same. We'll talk again soon, Dale.
Bye,
Bye.
bro. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Please, over in the let's see. So over in the Discord, I may have to change the name of this at some point. Oh, okay. We do have. I do intend to have some other speakers on eventually. Let's see. But I do have a section to ask questions. Let's see if I can find it. Questions to special guests. So let's see. If any of you have like a question for a special guest, or even if you have like a request to invite somebody specifically, just let them know, and I'd be glad to have a good talk with them. So that has been, let's see, is this episode 4 of Right Hand Meets Left Hand Path with EA Koetting? I'm glad to give this man a platform on YouTube, and YouTube can, you know, ban me, or it can deal with it. Either way, you guys have a great afternoon, a great weekend, and please enjoy yourselves. Thank you again.